Thank you so much for watching. I am really excited about today's episode of the Savvy Musician Show. I have a really special guest here that I'm excited to talk to. His name is Andy Levine, and Andy pioneered the concept of the festival at sea with the Rock Boat in 2001. And he focused on an immersive experience that combines the best of vacation and music. I can't think of anything more awesome than that. Yeah. And it was the Maiden Voyage. Is that what it was called? The Maiden Voyage?
Yeah, the first one.
Awesome. It was a huge success, and it set the groundwork for developing innovative community-focused events at sea. This was the start of the company Sixthman, which has been mixing live music with ocean cruises over the last 15 years. And they've chartered more than 100 cruise ships and hosted guests on more than 1 million days of vacation. Sixthman guests have experienced world-class artists and brand partners such as Kiss, Kid Rock, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Florida Georgia Line, Paramore, Zac Brown Band, 311, VH1, and Turner Classic Movies. And Levine's Tear Down the Walls philosophy has changed the way bands, brands, and fans interact and created a fantastical floating paradise where guest delight is priority number one. It also has been in Inc. magazine and been noted as America's fastest growing travel company and the 87th fastest growing company across all segments on the Inc. 500 list. Welcome, Andy. I'm super excited to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Leah. I'm excited to be here too. I love what you're doing.
Awesome. Can you just tell us a little bit about how the heck you even got into this whole cruise ship festival thing? Where did that idea even come from and your involvement in that?
When I was in college, a friend of mine showed me how to play guitar, and quickly I joined a band. I wasn't very good, but I booked all the gigs. I did all the business for the band, so they let me be in the band. I think I was only in the monitors for a couple years until I could actually learn how to play. But I loved it. I loved the idea of making music with people. And then after everyone kind of graduated, my next thing was I wanted to promote concerts. So I started promoting concerts in Gainesville, Florida, at the University of Florida, at a club there. And it went really well. And one of the bands was called Sister Hazel. They're a band from Gainesville, Florida. And became friends with them and became their manager. And we always focused on like a really grassroots, strong connection with the fans. And our philosophy was take such good care of our fans that they come back and bring their friends with them. And in doing that, we created like a street team. And after the band had a platinum album, we were doing these weekly chats back in 2001. And the fans were like, hey, we want a vacation with the band. We feel like we've done everything you've asked us to do. Put up flyers, let you sleep on our couch, you know, all the things that we asked them to do. To promote the band. And so I was like, they're right. So the band's like, let's do something. I was on a plane the next week from New York, and I was sitting next to a travel agent, and I said, hey, I have to take about 400 people on vacation. What should I do? And she suggested a cruise. And I was like, okay. So she helped us do the first one. Everyone was scared. The band was like, no way, I'm going to be trapped on the ship for 4 days. And I was a little scared too, but you know, I figured we had to take a chance. And I remember getting on the ship, and I called back to the office after the second day from Key West. And we stopped in Key West, and I said, guys, this is it. Bands and their fans on vacation together. This is what we're going to be doing moving forward. Because we weren't crazy about the management part. It was tough. The record labels and the radio stations. Napster had just come out, you know, a couple of years before. And everyone's like, music's going to be free. I'm like, well, let's offer our fans more, you know. So that's kind of how the cruise thing started.
That's cool. I love the whole like bands and fans, we're going to do this together. And, you know, that whole concept I feel like has carried right through to today, where basically if you want to be successful, you have to have something more to offer than just the music. And so that whole approach is actually quite a timeless strategy. How did this turn into a whole big business after that point?
Well, so when we took the 400 people on the ship, we knew we had something, but we weren't a whole ship. We were just 400 people out of 1,500 on the cruise. So like our concerts that we had to have them Sunday from noon to 3 because they had bingo at 3, you know? So it was kind of like a downer. So I was like, wow, if we get enough people, we can rent the whole ship And so I came back and called 4 other bands that we knew well, and the managers, and said, hey, we just did a really cool thing with 400 fans. If you bring your 400 or whatever you can bring, we can fill a ship, we can program a festival. And so that's kind of really where the vision was. And then I got 1,000 people to give us a $99 deposit for a cruise, like a potential cruise. I took that around Atlanta, and I got 2 local businessmen to loan me money to rent the first ship the following Labor Day weekend.
At the time too, like, how are you getting these commitments from people? Did you guys have an email list or anything like that? Or was it flyers or? Yeah,
no, believe it or not, in like 1998, we had a thing. We did 2 things with Sister Hazel that I really was proud of. One, we let people create their own email alias at sisterhazel.com. So if you were a fan, all you did was go and you create your alias, and then you would tell it what email to forward to. So you could give out that email. It would go to whatever, your Yahoo or whatever it was, but you could kind of feel more connected to the band. The other thing we did was on your birthday, you got an email, and the guitar player played Happy Birthday on slide guitar for you. You know what I mean? Just the instrumental. And so we were always doing things like this to kind of like show them that we know who they are, we really appreciate them, and we feel like we're all family. And so we had a list. We had a decent list. And the other bands were like, we're not sure about it, but if you get the ship, we'll be there, you know? So that's what we did.
That's really interesting. So are you telling me that the key to making all of this work was really building basically a culture and a community around that band?
Yeah, I mean, we don't even consider them fans. We consider the word fan almost an insult. These are friends. And when I took down the first cruise, the 400 people that came on the first cruise, they weren't strangers. I mean, these are like the 20 people in the front row from the 20 biggest cities the band went to. So they already knew them by name. They already had the picture and the autograph and all that. They just wanted to hang out, and it felt like friendship. It really felt like friendship. We had no issues. And once we saw that that's who we were dealing with and that's who we were serving, then, you know, it's better to make $200 a person on a cruise than $1 from selling a record. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. Wow. Yeah. I'm flabbergasted as to how in sync that is with my current thoughts of this and like our students at Savvy Musician Academy. Like, it is all about creating that intimate community of fans. Like, who cares if you have 1 million fans or 1 million listens or downloads and nobody ever buys anything from you and nobody really cares that much, right? How much more special is it to create music that people love and connect with? And they come to every single concert. They have all the merch and the mugs, and they come to every VIP session, everything. Like, that's so much more impactful and special for a musician, I think, and the fan. What have you noticed has changed since you started Sixthman cruises and now? Is the approach basically the same and just like keep doing that? Or do you notice like, oh, I'm seeing some shifts and people need to be changing what they're doing?
I've only seen what we were doing back then become more and more true. And the way we see that is that after doing that for a few years and being the only people doing it, bands started calling us. So like within a 3-month period, the Barenaked ladies, John Mayer and Lynyrd Skynyrd all called us and said, hey, we love what you're doing for Sister Hazel and their fan base. Would you help us do that for ours? We're getting ready to leave our label. Or we want to, you know what I mean? We really want to like fire up our core fan base. And I was like, wow, I've been waiting on your call. This is great. Of course, I had no idea how we were going to pull that off because these are like weddings, you know? I mean, taking 2,500 people on vacation and all the logistics that come with it are like our staff is 50 full-time employees. So, I mean, that's year round. And then we beef up around the season. So it's a lot that I did not know what I was getting into. But when they started calling, it made us feel like, yeah, we're on the right track.
No kidding. That is awesome. And I'm assuming this whole industry of music festivals at sea, is this pretty much brand new concept, or how long has this been around for?
It was. I mean, I think there was one guy who had done it before. A blues cruise had done it. He started a year or so before we did. But I don't think anyone, once we started doing it and, you know, doing multiple per year, I think that we ended up kind of getting out there to an early start. That's cool. How does a band get on a cruise ship? Like, do you have to be super famous? How does this work? No, you know, it's really funny. And so we took the same philosophy that we used for the band. So when I stopped, so after doing that cruise for 5 years, I had to choose between building this cruise business or staying Sister Hazel's manager. And so I called them and said, hey, I love you. It's been 10 years, but I'd rather do this and find someone to be your manager. And I'll help build this business, because we were partners on this one particular festival that we did, that we still do today. It's 18. We just got off its 18th year. But I took the same philosophy to the cruise. So it was like, take such good care of our guests. So we don't call them customers. You know, like we always say, like, customers buy gas. You know, they're not even passengers. Passengers just ride planes from point A to point B. But we call them guests because they stay with you. You know, they bring their luggage and they stay overnight under your roof together. So it's just like someone coming to your home. So our theory at Sixthman was take such good care of our guests that they come back and they bring people with them. And so to that point, even part of taking care of them is that we send out a survey every year after each cruise that we do, and we ask them, who was of the artists that were there, who do you want to see back, and tell us new artists that you want to see. And I will say that probably 75% of every one of our lineups is driven by the guests who come back, and we go hunt it. And we just kind of go out to artists and say, hey, your presence has been requested by our community, and we try to make it happen. So it's really, I'd like to say that we're like these amazing curators and we can feel it and all that. And we do, you know, find things we get excited about. We want to, you know, expose to our audience. But for the most part, the majority is coming from our guests' feedback.
That's really interesting. And so for me, being a musician and musicians listening or watching, they might be thinking, okay, so that would mean that I need to have enough of a presence. There needs to be enough of a fan base that they would even know who I am to request such a thing. And then we have to be enough demand really to justify putting it on a survey. So, right. So there's a gap between, okay, so you can't just like fall out of bed, decide to play guitar and then say tomorrow, I want to be on a cruise ship festival. There's a gap in between, which is you need an audience that loves your music. Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. So I would say that what I would tell a band is that the hardest thing for us is that every artist we put on the cruise, we want to make sure they're at least touring regionally, minimum. Hopefully they're touring at least nationally, because when people discover them, we want them to be able to follow that up. And we've heard stories for years that once people meet them on the cruise, again, they feel like they know them and they feel like they're friends, and because they go on vacation together. That's really how it feels. And they bring stuff to the shows. They bring food. They have posters up. I mean, every artist says every show we play, we meet at least one guest who saw us or discovered us on a cruise. But what I would tell artists is, you know, well, some artists are pretty savvy. They actually go to our communities and they find the people in the community in our Facebook groups and they share their music. And if they can get some momentum, it can work. It can work. And I would just say for us, like if we knew an artist could get 50 people or 100 people to buy a cabin on a cruise ship, they'd be valuable. They would be valuable. So it's not like you have to be able to, you know, fill a whole ship. But I would say we have a few artists that they do our cruises, but they also do their own like little weekends. Like they'll do like a little camp or a field day, like a 1 or a 2 night thing in their hometown and make it immersive. And so you come in, it's almost like a wedding. You come in, there's a happy hour, maybe they play acoustic, maybe everyone goes and plays kickball or, you know, whatever they do. There was a band that did, a band named Stephen Kellogg that did a thing called, they did Field Day. And so Friday night was a show. Saturday during the day, everyone hung out at a park. You know, they had like maybe 200 people, but that was great. It worked out well. And so that do it on a smaller scale. And it's actually more engaging. You know, you're going to get better time with that, with your fans in that environment. But when we see artists doing that, that really helps, because then one of our community members may attend that and say, hey, you should get these guys on the cruise. I go to their X weekend every year or their New Year's party or whatever it is, and they have like 100 or so people, and they're really good, and they care about their fans. That's a band we would be like, okay, they've already demonstrated that they're the kind of fan, a kind of artist that we're looking for. We have 7 things that we push ourselves on. So we have 7 checkpoints at Sixthman that we developed a long time ago, and we want everyone to feel invited. We want them to feel informed. We want them to feel excited, welcomed, amazed, looked after, and appreciated. And if you look at all those things, that's how we measure ourselves at the end. And it's like those 7 things have really allowed us to focus on the right things, so that everyone, when they leave, they're like, wow. I mean, we high five every guest when they walk on a ship. And I've high-fived personally over 100,000 people. And then when we leave, we buy-five them or give them a hug or whatever. And we look them in the eye and we say, thank you for trusting us with your vacation. And we do. I mean, like, we let them know that they give us the best jobs on the planet. And we are very clear about that. And that's our culture. That's just who we are. It's just like if you were having a party at your house, having people over, you want people to feel invited. It's not just an evite. You call them up, hey, or whatever it is. You do it in an authentic way. We did one thing. We've done a couple things, but we sent everybody a balloon, right? And when you blew up the balloon, that was the logo, the dates, and everything and the ports for the cruise the next year. So like just something that says, hey, we really want you to be there. This party's going to suck if you're not here. And so we try to do that. We don't always do it well, but we do push ourselves. And then there's just so many different things that we try to focus on like that. There are artists who, a lot of them are just introverts, and it's just exhausting to put themselves out there in this kind of life of the party, shaking hands, hugs, all that stuff. It's just exhausting for them, and I understand that. It's just not who they are. I will say there are other ways to engage your fans if that's not your thing. I mean, I'll give you like Paramore did something really cool where they invited fans to submit themselves singing a Paramore song, and they did what they called karaoke. So you got up on stage and the band was sitting there. The band was just sitting there on stools, you know what I mean? But they were right there, and then people got up and sang in front of the whole cruise ship, a minute and a half of a Paramore song. And it was a way for them to engage in a really cool way. Everybody kind of won there without them having to feel like, like, look at us, dance around and do all that stuff. And it felt good. So that's maybe not the best example, but there are ways for artists who are just truly introverts to still engage, I think.
I agree. I think there is totally a way for people to do that. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of email marketing. I mean, you can't get more introverted than that. And it was interesting for me doing the same thing, only I'm not a touring artist, but I'm doing all those exact things just strictly online, which is another challenge. Well, and in some respects, say I want to play on a cruise, I'm kind of doing things backwards, where a lot of bands will tour regionally, nationally, whatever, to get their name out there. Whereas I'm promoting online and building a fan base online around the world so that I can tour one day. So I'm kind of doing it just in a different order. But
you can.
Yeah.
That wasn't available to us.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally new world that we're in. So I'm grateful to be able to do that. I'm very blessed to be able to do it. And the only way I'm having any success at all is because I take that small tribe. I don't really want millions of fans. I don't need millions of fans. I only need a small amount of people. I mean, I'm writing music for me anyway, but if I can cultivate that relationship with a small group of people, that's what's powerful, and those are the people that buy your music for years to come. Like, this is like a lifetime relationship. It's not a one-time transaction,
They don't consider themselves fans. They don't. They consider themselves friends. And I think that's what's really helped you be so successful. And I think it's great. I can tell. I mean, I can just kind of feel it. You seem like a very authentic and like you care, and I think people probably feel seen and heard when they're in front of you online, even online.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I hope to pass on to other musicians. And really, the key to any success online these days is being authentic, because people can smell it from a million miles away when you're not yourself. Right. One of the things we have to get over is the awkwardness of video and that kind of thing, for example. The only difference between people who are successful with this and the people who aren't is that the successful people feel awkward too. They just do it anyway. And they, we just make it a priority, and eventually that stuff goes away. It's like playing live or something, when you're first getting into it, it doesn't always feel natural, but then it comes to you. If we could talk about, your advice for a band, maybe trying to get their name out there. I know you talked about doing some of the organic social media stuff, being in groups. Is there anything else you've seen that has worked really well?
What I've seen is the living room tours, the living room stuff that I'm seeing, and a lot of our guests are doing it. I really am curious about that, and I'm hearing really great things. That's one thing I've seen. I guess it would depend on the genre, but I have a lot of people picking up real fans because it's, again, you get to know them in that environment, you know?
Very cool. Yeah. Is that same interpersonal kind of authentic and intimate setting, I think, is probably what does it, where you come away with friends.
Yeah. They feel like friends. And I would say that, you know, if your alternative is to go open for a band, get paid $50 and play in front of 2 people in a club, you know, which is what happens to a lot. That's what used to happen to us your first time into a market, versus going to someone's house, having dinner with them, letting them invite 20 or 30 friends over and be totally engaged, make a donation or whatever it is. You know, I mean, I'm hearing bands walking out with $500, $1,500, you know, and 20 or 30 people that feel like they just got the most intimate thing ever.
That is awesome. Yeah, absolutely. That is so cool. I'm going to do that one day. 100%. Hey, tell me something either hilarious or shocking that happened on one of the cruises. Like, what comes to mind?
Oh, this is funny. Okay, so the first cruise we did, we showed up with all of our gear. And we didn't ask what kind of power the ship has. So ships run on 440 power. So our outlets in our homes are 110, and then dryers are 220. So it doubled the dryer. So we couldn't plug our stuff in. Like, I mean, like, it just, like, we were running. I mean, if you plugged in, it would literally just blow it up. So, like,
oh no.
I remember like we were supposed to leave, and the sound company was like, there's a company across town, this is in Tampa, that has a transformer we can use to at least get something going, make some noise. It's going to be like $5,000. And I'm like, I give some guy like one guy who works for us, I give him a Royal Crown bag of $5,000, like, get in a taxi, go here and get that thing. I'm going to stall the ship. You know, we didn't have enough of a relationship yet to get the ship to hold. So I'm like down there, like, I'm off the ship, just off, and they're yelling at me, you got to get on. And I'm like, I can't get on yet. I'm waiting on somebody. So it was that was a really big learning thing for me.
Oh my gosh.
You can imagine. Yes. And then we have people who ask, hey, can I get FedEx on the ship? I'm like, no, you cannot get FedEx on the ship.
Maybe you could get like Amazon drones now or something, but.
Well, that was the other thing, you know, the drones these days, they go up, and if they get lost, they'll come back to the spot where they took off, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't work on a cruise ship because the ships are always moving. So if it goes to the ship, the spot where it started, it's in the water. So, like, there's always funny things like that people, that just happen. Oh, we had this was a good one. A lot of people don't realize that cruise ships never stay in port overnight. They come in the morning, they drop everyone off, and they pick up a new batch of guests, and then they leave. So we had a band that got in the night before the cruise, which most do, and they saw a cruise ship at the port, and they just went and dropped off their gear. Oh. And it wasn't even our ship. It was like another ship.
Oh, no.
And so the next day they show up, and we're like, hey, where's your gear? They're like, oh, we dropped it off at the port yesterday. And I'm like, that wasn't our ship. So,
I can't even imagine.
Think that way. Hey, let's just go ahead and drop it off now so we don't have to get up early in the morning. So little things like that are funny. Those are the cleanest versions I could tell you.
Well, we didn't say this was a G-rated show, so I'm just saying you can. Anything shocking that has happened?
You know, one thing this is kind of like a cool Moby thing, but there was a lot of people get engaged, and we did a cruise with the band Train, and they have a song called "Marry Me," and we heard of a couple. When our staff hears of a couple getting engaged, they'll like get them some champagne or whatever. Usually it's the guy going, oh my God, I want to do this. I'm not sure what to do. And, you know, a couple of the females from our company be like, we got you, man. We got you. And they'll like kind of plan a day or spend a day helping him organize his ask. And it was a good story because this couple was going to get engaged. We didn't know anything about them. And during the song, the singer, Pat Monahan, walked out in the audience. He walks around in the audience and sings a song. And I know him. And I walked up to him while he was singing, you know, between. I said, hey, that couple up there is getting engaged. So he stops the whole thing. And he, of course, you know, they got engaged. Turns out he's a firefighter. She's a nurse. And they met because he was in an accident fighting a fire, and he was pronounced dead. And she was the nurse that resuscitated him.
Whoa.
Ended up, obviously becoming friends and then dating and getting married. And it was like this, it was just like this, you almost thought it was fake. So that's a story that stands out for me. That's really cool.
How can people connect with you and Sixthman and all of that?
So sixthman.net is our website. I highly encourage anyone to go see it. You can see all the festivals you do. We try to present our staff as like really interesting characters. So there's stuff on that. We really celebrate how many days of vacation we've taken people on or people have trusted us with. And you can see all that. I'm not really out there right now. I'm kind of under the radar right now. I've worked so hard all these years. I'm excited. I'm spending more time with my kids and just trying to like see what's up for the next chapter for me. Congratulations to what you guys are doing, y'all. It's really special. I wish I would have had access to something like this when I first started. But no, thank you for having me. I'm grateful.
Thank you. It was awesome meeting you and making this connection. And I'm definitely gonna be calling you about a cruise ship thing. I know my fans would be there in a heartbeat, just asking them like, hey, if I had like a CD release party in Ireland, would you guys come if I rented a castle or something? They're like, we're down. Like, when is this happening? We're doing this.
We'll help you with that. We do that. Yes.
You
our
do?
Teams can, our team is they're doing land-based things now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're looking at doing those kind of experiences. So just let me know.
This is happening.
Yeah, so we'd love to help you think it through, explore.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Andy. This was like you're one of the most interesting people I've ever met in the music industry. So this has been a real privilege. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Feelings mutual.